Almost heaven, West Virginia. Hello everybody, and now we're starting to talk business. In this section, I'm going to show you 3 different songs, and in each one of them I'm going to show you how I used to play them for years and how probably 95% of the guitar players out there play them in that same old way, kind of like this, in the case of Country Roads. Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shannon. You get the point? And that's how most people would be if you show them the chords to a song. And then I'm going to show you what I call a serving suggestion. I'm not saying that this is the best way to play the song, but I do think that it is a lot more interesting and engaging both to you and both to the listener if you play it in the way that I'm going to show you. And in this way, I'm going to use a bunch of different techniques. With each one of the techniques that I'm going to use now, I'm going to actually stop and point it out for you and shortly introduce it so that if you like it, you know where to go, to the section about it in the course where you can learn more about it, practice it, and start using it yourself. The 3 different songs that I show in this section, in them I also use a variety of the different techniques. So you get to see all the techniques that we use in the course in those 3 songs, and then you get to pick. So this section is also the index of the techniques. Anyway, and let's begin. Some of the techniques are going to be more subtle, some of them are more prominent, and you'll be the one to pick which ones you actually want to use yourself and which ones not. Country Roads, one of the most common progressions in the world. This is going to be relevant to millions of other songs that you play. Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains, Shenandoah River. Alright, now let's start breaking down some of the techniques, and then I'm going to also play the second verse into the first chorus. And if you want to see a full performance of this song, and also to many other songs that you can find in the chord book as well, so check out the section that is called Serving Suggestions, where I play many of those different songs with some techniques and spices to hopefully give you some ideas to how to play them yourself. Anyway, let's begin. And the first technique that you probably noticed, the most prominent one, was that instead of just playing full strums, I was chopping down the chords into individual notes, and this is a technique that is called Arpeggio. This is really what I call the #1 way to beautify songs. So if you're into it, check out the section that I have for you about it. There's a lot of information there on how to start playing like that yourself. Now let's talk about more techniques that I used. The first one that comes to my mind is that in order to create some richer transitions and more interesting transitions between the chords, I used what's called bass stairways, or I also call it bass walk-ups and walk-downs. In this case, when I moved from the G to the E minor, I didn't just move, but instead I made a stop on a transition note between the G to the E minor. So it sounded like this. So this is something really nice to do. Another thing is that in order to give the chords more life and make them sound fuller, we can use some hammer-ons and pull-offs into them or out of them. What do I mean by that? Instead of, for example, just playing a G, so we can use also a hammer-on on the 5th string from the open into the 2nd to create something more interesting. And I'm going to show it to you right now on a couple of other chords. This is going to be a bit exaggerated. I'm going to use it a bit too much, but this is in order to show the point. one is also closely related to the next one, which is playing some riffs in between the chords. This is a very cool one. It's also on the advanced side, but I'm going to break it down for you and show you how we can start get better on it. And an example of where I use in between chords is that usually I like to use it on the instrumental parts, so it doesn't get in the way of the lyrics, of the singing. For example, in the intro, or between the choruses, or in solo parts. Here's an example. Before we move on to the last techniques, let me play the second verse into the chorus for you. And in it, you're going to notice that something happens, and I'm going to stop using the arpeggio picking and make the song more upbeat. This is going to be a technique called dynamics. We're going to use dynamics so the song is not the same in the same energy level all the time, but instead we build it up. We make it more interesting. Life is older, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, blowing like the breeze. Country roads take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia. This was dynamics and building up to something, and in the section about it I'm going to show you different ways in which how we can build up the song and how we can keep building it after the second chorus as well, and more and more. Other things that we can do here, and in this example I was doing in 3 different ways, is using interesting chords. For example, instead of playing the same old G, D, E minor, C, I was exchanging the E minor some of the times into an E minor 7 to give it some more color. Another thing is to use slash chords. So in the chorus, instead of, for example, playing G into a D, into an E minor, something that would make the transitions really butter smooth between the chords is, instead of the D, to play a D over an F sharp. This creates a more natural bass movement instead of, and also gives you some fuller chords in between. And another kind of interesting chords that I used was suspended chords. In this example, the D suspended 4. And suspended chords give you a way to add some tension and release elements into your song playing. The last technique that I want to point out is what I call wiping the strings. And this is just a funny name that I came up with, but this is basically a technique to grab the listener's attention and show them that we're building up to something. For example, we can do it right before the chorus or right before we just start to play the song. And it's this one. So we're going to talk a little bit about this one as well in its own section. Anyway, so I hope that this gives you some ideas, and I hope you're having a great time so far and you're excited for the learning. I will see you in the next videos. You can jump straight into the sections and learn about some of the techniques that already intrigued you, or you can join me right now, or you can join it later on the 2 other videos about Ain't No Sunshine and just the 2 of us. Cool songs that can be made even cooler. Have a great time, and I will see you in the next videos.